Okay, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday, the end of the week. I hope you had a very healthy and productive at least. Well, hopefully there's some happiness in there too. It's been a little stressful to say the least. I'm here with Sarah Arrow, who you may or may not know. Hopefully by now you do. She's certainly memorable when you do get to know her.
I'm going to start talking. You know I won't stop.
I'm not letting you talk yet. Nope. First, what we're going to talk about today. So, we just launched the course on managing remote teams. So I wanted to give you an overview, obviously, of that, but go through some FAQs and some of my own experience with managing a remote team, some of the top challenges I've heard, because a remote team it can be anything from one person, a VA. So I started with just one virtual assistant, but then a lot of people have a mix. You can have full-time employees and part-time employees and remote workers and freelancers and people in the office and out of the office, and it just grows. So right now I have someone full-time, I have someone part-time, I have some freelance people. I've got Sarah who pops in and out. So a remote team really has a lot of different character, a lot of different people involved in it. And it comes with challenges. Mm-hmm. So challenges, some of your team members might be better at working remotely than others. Some might be brand new to it. Now, I'm not talking not just about you, of course, but about your audience. So you may have a very small team, but that doesn't mean that you can't still help other people who have a team. So even if you only have one person who works with you, you may consider yourself as not having a remote team. But in fact, if you have anybody, any kind of freelance person that you've worked with, they're part of your team. That is part of your remote team. So they're the people that are ongoing and people that come in and out. And while there are challenges, there's challenges like the communication issue, time zones, keeping everyone on the same page, knowing whether someone's working or not, or how efficient they're being, because you don't see them. You only see the result of their work. There's things like people getting demotivated, feeling isolated. And that happens not just with people who are new to remote work, but also people who've been doing it for a while. It's the same sort of challenges, even if you think you're great at it. But the result is so well worth it, such a joy, because you have happier people, happier employees. They have more flexibility and control over their life, which also keeps them more motivated. Often they have more opportunity to learn and do other things, whether it's learning new skills or doing other things in their life. So with happier employees also comes often better work results, work product. It also comes with, cost savings. So things like if you had someone in office, you don't have the space, you're not paying for equipment unless you need to buy equipment for somebody, for a remote worker, and that does happen. Travel costs, things like that. So bigger companies that have those issues. So it's well worth having the remote team, but again, there are the challenges that are involved in it. And people are having to deal with that more and more now. Managing people has always been difficult. It's when I was working in the corporate world and designing training for companies, the first thing we always ended up having to deal with was management skills. So sales training, couldn't do a good sales training program unless you're training the sales managers. So this sort of challenge, people don't come naturally to managing others. And then when you have a remote team, it has its own slew of unique issues that people have to learn how to deal with, and you can help. So I'm not going to talk about the course yet. I know, Sarah, you really want to.
I know.
No, come on.
I'm like, unpack it.
So we're not going to spend a long time. I just wanted to go through some of the success tips that I've had with managing a remote team, gradually building it over the years. Sarah, maybe you have some tips you'll add in, and then I will get into showing a little bit about the course that we just released so that you can help your audience with managing their remote team, not just now, but in the future. So again, remote work now may be new for some people, maybe old hat, but it's not going away. So even after things open up more, I think there's going to be a lot more people doing remote work, working remotely as they're more comfortable with it. And that's not going to change at all. All right. It's going to get bigger. So I mentioned a few of the challenges in terms of, when one of the challenges two other challenges I forgot about that are a big deal are quality control. So when you don't see people and they're not necessarily on the same page, it's hard to keep the same quality of all the work and have it consistent. Giving guidelines, of course, helps that. Also, boundaries is another big issue that always comes up, which is knowing when you can contact and talk to somebody and when you can't, because otherwise they just assume that you're always available. And that's both on the manager's end and whoever's working for you remotely. So as a manager, you don't want people to think that they can access you at any time of the day and night and weekends. And at the same time, you can't assume that for your remote workers. All right. Really important. Anyway, so
she'll say, it's 2 a.m. Go back to bed.
What, me? That's what I do to you. Yeah, like, why are you up? I'm just leaving you this message for tomorrow. I just typically say, don't look at this now. I'm just putting it in there. So really, when it comes, so my success tips, I'm going to share some of mine. Firstly, you have to agree on your channels of communication and what you're going to use for different things. And everyone, especially when you're working also with freelancers, some people have different preferences, but you as a manager need to specify. So as an example, we in our team use Skype a lot on my internal team. So if my assistant needs to contact me with a question immediately, I always do have Skype there. I have it I have it on Do Not Disturb, so it doesn't bother me, but I can see that there's a message, and then she'll just contact me when there's an immediate question that needs answering. And that's really the only way we use that, other than when we want to do a live call where we can see each other. So otherwise we use email for other things that maybe are not directly related to a project. And then we have our project management system, and we use Asana, A-S-A-N-A, Asana. And that is where we keep our communication related to each project. So as much as possible, we keep it in there. And it also sends an email if you tag someone or somebody is a follower on a project, you'll get an email. So I don't necessarily go into Asana and check it for notifications of people contacting me. I can't speak. It's Friday. I keep track on my email. So everybody has their own way that they can use it and use those different preferences. So that's key. Of course, I end up still having other ways of communicating with people. So like Sarah and I often communicate via WhatsApp because I don't know, Facebook Messenger never really worked out. We try and turn Facebook off so that it's not distracting us. People do still contact me that way, but WhatsApp has just worked better. So my contact in WhatsApp, I think, Sarah, you're the only person who I have on my team that I communicate with via WhatsApp. And that's also an international issue. So if you have people on your team who are in different places in the world, WhatsApp is often a better way to be going back and forth with them. And then other people I know, it's Slack. It's all about Slack, and they have different channels. But Slack is difficult for team communication for specific projects because the threads can go on and on and on and on. Whereas if you use a project management system, you can keep it confined to specific projects. So you have to play around and see what works. But the main point there was that you have to agree on what channels you're going to use so that you're always checking those. and then agree on when people can contact you and when they can expect a response. So, and if it's a urgent thing, you have to make sure you know and not overuse that, like urgently needing a reply.
Mm.
What was I going to say about email? Another point on email with teams, and this is just a general management issue, it's not just for remote teams, is being careful about, number one, who you copy on stuff. And if you do copy multiple people, making sure people know whether they need to respond or not. And the other is having really long email threads, because things get lost in there. And if somebody replies and then someone else replies, sometimes the previous reply disappears or you don't see it. So it's not the best way to have an ongoing conversation. All right. So that was one thing on communication. Do you have anything to add on that before I keep going?
All that I say is you got to remember not everyone gets notifications on devices.
Mm-hmm.
So I only get Facebook notifications if I've actually got Facebook open. I don't get Facebook notifications on my phone. And for last year, there was a whole 4 months where I didn't get any messenger updates at all, either on Facebook itself or on my devices. So people could message me and I would be completely oblivious unless I actually clicked the messenger and then saw these people wanting to talk to me. So
Mm-hmm.
you do have to find a way that works. And sometimes before we were really into our WhatsApp, I'd only used WhatsApp a few times, and that was with my kids. And then I'd look at it and go, how do I reply? But we had that glitch with the Facebook Messenger, so I had to make the WhatsApp work because we needed to communicate. And now it's a really fantastic thing. I have it on my desktop. So when I'm at my desk, even if my phone's in another room, I still get the notifications. And if I'm out and about, I still get the notifications when I'm out and about. And it's great.
Yeah, it's terrific. The only downside, it's great for back and forth conversation, like brainstorming and other things or quick stuff. It's not great for sharing things that you need to refer back to. So similar, Messenger similar that way. Skype is similar that way. It's hard to go back and search for stuff. So if you're sharing anything that you want, like a link that you want the person to be able to go back to, fine if it's an immediate thing, like we're going on StreamYard and here's the link to join. I can quickly share that, you have it. But if I share it now for next week, like Tuesday's one, we're doing a Facebook Live with Leslie Samuel, who, if anybody hasn't heard of him, you're definitely going to want to show up on Tuesday at noon when we have Leslie Samuel coming and talking to us. But I won't go into that now because that we're going to try and be concise here today.
Yes.
But my point was on the communication, agree your channels, agree what channels are for what purposes, and when people can expect a reply or when you're available. So that was been a bit, and communication is one of the biggest keys on working with a remote team. So that's going to really decide whether things go smoothly or not, because you want everyone on the same page. And that brings me to another point, which is on the communication, is sometimes you do have to have live calls. And every team's a little bit different that way, because it depends where your time zones are. Like we have people in a variety of time zones and have to be really careful of that when doing live calls. We are also very good at working independently already because we've been working together for a while. So we tend to only have live calls face to face when there's something where we just want to check in and make sure we're all on the same page, or there's some issue. Like we have a new course that we're putting together and we're a little bit unclear on what direction it should take and what should be involved. So we just got on a call, talked it through. I do that with our instructional designer. Whenever she's putting together a new course, we'll talk just to make sure we're clear, because that can fall, that doesn't always work in print and just leaving comments. Sometimes you really just have to talk it out loud, out loud. So make sure you do have that. Some people do a live team meeting every morning. Others do it once a week. Again, depends on your needs, your business. And again, that can be a one-person team or multiple people. So like my husband has working for a client where there are multiple people and they have a weekly call and daily ones too. So communication, let's see. And by the way, anyone who wants to leave a comment, please, questions, comments. And again, I can just remind you that we have a new course that's on managing remote teams. So it's contentsparks.com/remote teams that I will show you in a minute. And Sarah will ask me tons of questions about. So that's that. And let's see, what other tips did I want to share with you? I've got my handy notes here, Facebook, iPad, very handy when there's lots of stuff to remember. Guidance, giving guidance very early on is essential. So when you have people working in different locations, they're not just going to pop into your office, and you wouldn't want them doing that anyway, and say, oh, I had a question about this, about that. What should I do? You want to give the guidance up front. And if you do more then, there'll be less rework, less questions, less going back and forth further on. And this is just a standard delegation tip. But when you have remote workers, it's even more important because they can't just pop in their head and say hi. That should only be for urgent stuff. That's what the Skype is. That the Skype in our team is somebody popping in their head and asking a question, or WhatsApp in your case. So it's important to give the guidance up front, avoid any confusion there, and then let people do their work. Just check in. That's check in periodically, maybe have some different milestones. This is kind of basic project management 101, but when it comes to remote teams and remote workers, it's important to go back over that stuff. So if you have an audience of people who are not used to this, you might also want to talk about project management and work through some project management skills with them. I think we recommend that as well as one of our add-on courses. Templates helps a lot, again, with remote workers or anyone on your team. If we have templates for all different types of things, whether it's Canva images or our documents and slideshows, stuff like that, where the outline is there and people know what they have to fill in, and formulas for what to do on, say, social media or elsewhere, then people can just work and maybe say, hey, Sharon, they'll say, hey, Sharon, can you just check this before I schedule it? And I'll say, fine. Okay. But then they get comfortable and know what you want and can do it on their own more. And really, a couple other things I wanted to share first before we go into more on working with a remote team is, firstly, don't worry so much about how many hours somebody is working. You want to track hours to see whether people are being efficient, just to look at places where you could improve efficiencies. Like, are you spending too much time on admin? Are support tickets taking too long to work through? Look at, if something else is taking too long, does it really make sense to do that? So you still want to track hours that way to check efficiency, but otherwise it's more about the results. So focus on the results when you can't see the people. This isn't FaceTime, not FaceTime, the iPhone, iPad stuff, but FaceTime, the old Office. If you can't see someone, do you know if they're working or not? That's gone. That's out. Don't worry about putting in the FaceTime or someone putting in the FaceTime hours of being in the office. It's the results and their work results that matter. And then you're looking at hours and stuff to see how efficient they're being. And work around their lives. That's one of the joys of someone being able to work remotely, is being able to have their own schedule, flexible schedule. So you need to make sure they know when they have to be available for you to be able to contact them. But otherwise, don't stress about it if someone needs to go to the dentist. As long as they tell you they're not going to be available at certain hours, just leave it at that. Work around the different time zones. When we do meetings that are bigger meetings, we've got someone in Japan, someone sometimes in Israel, in Panama, in the UK, in France, going all over. And a team meeting with everyone is really difficult to organize. So we do smaller ones, and we do those much less frequently, and just work around people's lives that way. But give people that freedom, and they're going to be much more motivated. And again, like I said before, a team can be one person, one VA, or it can be a bigger team and a mix of different. So those are really my main tips for now. I've been managing a remote team for a while, and those are the biggest things that have come up. Sarah, what else can you add to that before, what time are we at? Okay, keep going. Before I go into the course.
I would add with your remote teams, you've got to remember you're also a remote worker. You're True. Part of, even though you're leading that team, you're also a remote worker. And just because you've got time on your hands, and that doesn't mean your team have got time to drop what they're doing and respond immediately to your check-in. I know that I get excited about things, and then I distribute it out, and then I'm like, oh, what am I doing? I know, I'll see how they're getting on. But hang on a minute, I just gave them that piece of work half an hour ago. They ain't going to have it finished, right? I've got to sit on my hands for a whole day before I say, are there any issues? And that is something that I find not a lot of people talk about, being the leader of the remote team, and how it is for you, because you're also remote, and it's also exciting, and it's great talking to people all over the world, and it's great getting in all of the pieces of work and bringing it together, and with all your project management skills and everything else that goes with it. It's really, really exciting, and it's up to us to enthuse our team and give them the excitement that we feel for it, so that when they go and do their work, they're doing their best work. Sharon tells me what's coming up in advance, and I was like, oh, that's really good. And she's like, no, get back. We've got to do this now. You can't run off and search podcasts. You're going to get back. We're working on this. You've got that excitement. It's knowing what's coming in the future, what we're doing now, and communicating with that team. And that's the brilliant thing about being part of Team Sparks and Sharon's team, is knowing the things that are coming up in the future and how they tie into what we're doing. Because we knew at the beginning of April that remote teams was coming. We knew everybody would need this for their clients and to help people. We also knew the thing, I've completely forgotten what it was last week, that was brilliant. It finished yesterday.
The work from home business.
The work from home biz, yeah. We knew that was coming. So, and Sharon had done the leadership resources. So we had all of these things coming through, and the team pulling double duty to ensure that they were getting out to the audience, who had people clamoring for, how do I do this with a home biz? How do we lead in a crisis? How do we do this? And Sharon's got her fingers in all of the pies, organising us all, ensuring that it's coming through. And that's a really exciting thing, knowing that we go from leadership resources, which I believe you can still download, and then the home biz, which you may have just missed out on the deal, but do go over and have a look. And now the remote teams, you've got a complete kit there. And that's really exciting to work on something like that. So if you're leading a team, do talk to the team about things that are coming up, so they can get excited with you. And when these things launch and come to fruition, they feel the pride in the work too.
Yeah, and it's a point on that with stuff coming up that I've made as a mistake in the past is, you want people to be focusing, like you said, on the task at hand, on the project. So it's very easy to distract people by saying, oh, and don't forget this, and this is happening, and that's happening, and remember this. And then they're like, what should I be working on now? And that's when it's good to check back and say, okay, just focus on this today. This is the priority. And the rest is just to keep in mind, but don't let it distract you. And that's why the project management system is so important, so that when you're going into one project, you're just focusing on that project. People need to know what else is going on, but don't overload them with it. So I'm not talking to my team about things in the calendar that are in August or September necessarily. We have a calendar set up and I work on planning and shuffling things around. We've done a lot of shuffling around of topics and putting new topics in because of the current situation, crisis, and needs for different content. But I'm not going to start distracting them with that unless it's something they need to know about. So just focusing on the current stuff and what's relevant. So it's a fine balance there, giving people, usually you say over communicate and give too much information, but then that can be very distracting. So then always keep going back and setting priorities. 1-person team or 10-person team. All right. So you want to talk about, I was going to keep this Facebook Live to no more than 30 minutes, but it's already 25. So you want to start.
You've got to unpack it, Sharon. Come on, show us.
Unpack it. All right. So remote teams, let me just show you the page. I'm actually going to keep us on screen so you remember that we're here. Here, I'll hide the URL for the moment so you can see it. So managing remote teams is the newest course that we just released. I think the title's relatively self-explanatory. How to build a motivated, productive, and cohesive virtual team of remote workers. We got a lot of keywords in there. You're going to change the title to make it what makes sense for your audience, okay? And there's a nice description on the sales page. Again, the URL is simple, contentsparks.com/remote teams, all one word. And this is one of our mid-size packages. So you'll see, firstly, the modules are, you go through the challenges and rewards of managing remote teams. I talked about formalizing team communication. This is one of the biggest deals of any type of team management. 1 person, 10 people, whatever it is that communication side. So you're going to guide people through what's important there and what kind of setup. Motivating people is the next big thing. So that whole, people are human beings and what motivates them. And then talking about collaboration and maximizing productivity. So those are the key modules in there. And then there are the usual course book action guide. There's a great self-assessment that you can do on the characteristics of a high-performing remote team manager. I can give you a peek at that, but I want to show the bonus too. Cheat sheet, slideshow, all that fun stuff. And then there is an early bird bonus that disappears on May 6th. So it's only around for 5.5 more days. All right. And then the other thing to look out for is when you add it to the cart. I don't know why the button doesn't always work, but when you add this to the cart from up here, you'll see this suggestions page, where there's this extra thing, working and managing remotely, quick tips and resources. And some people already have this because it was something we gave out earlier, but now it is reduced price. And then there's some other suggestions like outsourcing for small businesses. So if people need to get into outsourcing, we do have a bigger course on that. So that's actually the process of figuring out what you want to outsource and hiring people. We also have one on virtual assistant outsourcing. So if you have audience who just needs to hire a virtual assistant, that's a really good course. And we also did this special on modern business etiquette and communication, which is also a very useful thing on the communication aspect. So that's that. And that working and managing remotely, quick tips and resources was the other thing that I mentioned. I'm not going to go into that because I know you want to look at stuff. So let's take a look. It's hard to see this, but the remote teams, the main package. Is there anything you want to definitely see in here? Because I'm not going to open up everything.
I want to see the assessment. Show me the bonus.
Okay, so let me go back to the bonus, the early bird bonus. Right now, this is only available in the main course, Managing Remote Teams. Okay. Actually, I think I have it open already. Here it is.
Yeah.
See it? Okay. So this is 9 pages. And it goes through what the main skills are for remote team leadership. All right. And there are, let's see, 15 different statements that you evaluate yourself on managing remote teams, what you're good at. And it's a rarely, sometimes, often type thing. Like, I put people at ease. They feel that they know me and that they know what to expect when they deal with me or talk to me. So you're just going to rate yourself. Anyone who's going to be, this is really good as a lead magnet, because then you're going to get people seeing where they stand with remote team leadership skills, and then they'll be interested in the course itself. So that's useful. And then there's a little score, how do you a self-assessment there. How do you measure up? And then you have reflection questions in there. So you think about what your score was like, and then action steps where you lay out, okay, what am I going to do? What strengths can I build on? Where do I need to adopt some new behaviors? What knowledge or skills do I need to acquire? And this leads on nicely to the course if you use this as a lead magnet. So I love this as a bonus. And what's going to happen with this one is it's an early bird bonus now. So again, that's in the main course, contentsparks.com/remote teams. It's the early bird bonus now. And then starting next Thursday, it'll go into that extra pack I talked about, the where is it?
The expansion pack.
Yeah, we didn't call it an expansion pack this time, but it's the quick tips and resources. It's going to go into that, so it'll be part of that paid upsell thing. And no, you don't get it if you already have this. You have to have that. You have to buy the main course right now or get this again. Okay, but it's well worth it. I mean, that leadership assessment extra, the bonus, is worth way more than this thing, than the extra tips and resources costs.
I was thinking maybe if you got a group and you did the assessment as a live stream and asked the questions and asked people to score it as you went through it, and then at the end of it ask them to comment with their scores. That might be a really good way of delivering it as a live piece, so you can become familiar with the materials and how people respond to it. Then you can see how you might want to edit it. You may use the introduction there. And then having delivered it as a live stream, you might think, oh, you know what? I should have done this. I should have said that. And then you can adjust it to fit you and your brand. And then you might find one question that's in 3rd place actually needs to be in 8th. And something that's in 10th place may actually need to be in 3rd place. So you get to move the statements around and tailor it really specifically to you. So even if somebody else has this pack, once you've delivered it once, it becomes yours because you adapt it to fit you, your leadership style, and even your teaching style. Because although this is a quiz, and when I looked at it, oh, my dog's awake. Oh, it's been to the vet. Marsha, if you're watching, that was just for you in Jamaica, because Marsha's a big fan of Bones, the dog, when she joins in the live streams. She normally barks when she thinks something's really good. So I think she's enjoying this quiz part.
Yeah, I like that idea, the self-assessment quiz. It's really an assessment, self-assessment, rather than a quiz. But
yeah, it can be used as a quiz. You can use it as a downloadable. But I think as I was watching you unpack it, Sharon, I was thinking to myself, do you know what? I think if you've got a group on LinkedIn and you can do a LinkedIn Live, if that's where your community are, that's going to be a really powerful thing to get them engaging. And if you've got a Facebook group and you've got people managing teams there, that's going to be something that really sparks their interest. So I'm really excited to see that. I don't know whether to get the pack, and I have no intention of teaching remote teams, or wait till next week to pick it up with the other bits.
Oh, but you have experience with teaching remote teams. So actually, it would work really well if you have people, again, who are even just starting with one person. Because I really do think I had a lot of the same challenges initially, even when I just had one person who was working for me. And I didn't realize that there's the freelancers. You have to consider them as part of your remote team as well. So this is going to work well with people who have one or several people in their team. All right. Don't rule it out. Not yet. So, I mean, you, Sarah, you're going to want to be teaching this. You know you will at some point.
It. I'm thinking, gosh, I wonder if I could say I've got a stomach cramp and then go and buy it. Oh, I've got to go, Sharon. The dog's barking. I'm just going to nip over to the shop and get it.
Okay, now back to the serious stuff. What else did you want? That's the early bird bonus. So I don't think I'm going to go through the whole thing because we were going to keep this a little bit shorter, but let me just open up one thing that's really useful to see, and I want to highlight it for everybody, is in most of our courses, we have this contents list. Oh, what happened?
It's there. I can see it. I can see the modules, the learning objectives.
Yeah, I don't know. It tried to open it up in another thing. All right. So look out for these documents, these contents lists, because they do have in there the names of the modules, the learning objectives, and then what's actually included in the pack. So what student materials, instructor, lead gen, whatever's in there. That's a really useful thing. And actually, what we've started using these for is when a customer really wants more details of what's in it, we can just send this. So that's a useful thing, but it's in there for your own reference. And we've talked about that before. It's a great way as when you're starting to do your sales page or to tell people about it. All right. So I just wanted to show you that. That was the bonus, the remote team leadership assessment. And then I was going to show you, let's see. In this one, in the action guide, we have the action guide, and then there's another assessment because you can't have too many assessments, right? So this is actually, this is another characteristics of a high-performing remote team manager. And this one actually goes with the course. So the other's really good. It can go with the course, but it's a great lead magnet. This one goes along with the course as well and has some other assessment stuff that matches up with the action guide. So they are different, okay? And then you have your action guide with all the different things people are going to do in the course, all the different learning activities that are in the course book. So I don't think I'm going to go into all that. There are screenshots on the sales page. So if you want to see what things look like, you can always see the screenshots also. You just scroll down. You're not going to be able to see them on here easily because, well, they're tiny and you're not supposed to be able to read them, but you get a good sense of what's in there. Is there anything else you want me to show before we start to wrap up?
Get off and go and buy it, Sharon. You know what I'm like.
I'm not telling Kevin, don't worry. But do look at all the different things in there. And then you can always send us questions. Support@contentsparks.com is how to reach us. I lost my mouse here. There we go. Let me just put that in.
Is there an infographic in with this one? Is there an infographic in with this one? I thought I saw it right at the bottom and then you moved up.
Oh, let me take a look. Usually we have the overview infographic. So I'm looking, it looks like I'm looking away, but I'm actually looking at my other screen. So very useful way to do this stuff. We have this. I think that's what you mean. Let me try and open that.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a way of using these on my sales pages because I don't really do much with them. But I'm thinking there must be a way to incorporate these onto the sales page so somebody can look at that and visualize the content in one glance. Yeah,
this is really, we put these in most of our courses now. And if there's one, or if there are ones that we're still updating, we add them as we do updates. But it's kind of the roadmap or results map or whatever you want to call that, the roadmap for the course. So it's a nice way to give people that overview. So it could be in the sales page, like you said, but then also when you're teaching it, you can keep referring back to it. So if you're doing it live, like in webinars or live streams or videos, you can always be referring back to it. And it's a nice way whenever you start the live stream or the video to say, okay, we've covered module 1, we've gone through this, the challenges. Now we're going to talk about the rewards, or we went through all the challenges and rewards in the last video. Now we're going to talk about team communication, and maybe break it up into little bite-sized videos and start with, choosing your tools and what tech you need and making the key decisions. So always referring back to it. And there are ways, if you wanted to customize the way it looks. I did something once. I don't remember if it's in this one or not in the slideshow, but you can do a build on these things where if you're walking through something like that, as you walk through, you can just change the color of the text on something, like just highlight it and gray it out as you go through each one so that it's clear that you've already covered that and you're not talking about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. So
yeah, we've
as you
done
go
that.
over it, it highlights the one that you're on.
Mm-hmm. You just have to go in and change the color. There are some other ways to do that that really don't work as well, but I like just going in. We just did this on something recently. I think it's in our podcast course, or not podcast. It's the one about how to get interviewed on podcasts. That's next Thursday. I think we did this on one. So you would just go like that and then do that the same with the others. And then when you're talking about like lack of trust is one of the challenges, you'd have the others grayed out and then do that as you do the next ones as well. Now I have to undo all that.
Well, I came into this thinking, you know what, even though I've got a team that varies in sizes because, it expands when I've got more things on and contracts accordingly, as teams should, I was thinking to myself, I'm never going to use this. And as you've unpacked it and I've seen the quiz, I'm thinking, I am going to use this.
I know you are.
I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I am so turning that quiz into a webinar. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And I'm even talking about faking a stomachache so I can get off the call and go and buy it right away.
No, I really think this is an important one. And I want to make sure that that you realize that it starts with one team member and grows, and the challenges grow. So you can go through it and look at it yourself, learn from it yourself, especially if you only have maybe one team member, and start implementing some of this stuff. If you already have some team members, then you already know a lot of this stuff, how important a lot of this is, and you can be helping other people as they start to manage remote workers. Maybe they already have somebody that works remotely and they just need to improve their skills at that. They may be growing the remote team, may have people who are new to remote work. It's really important for you to help them with the management aspect of that, because having a remote team is it's just awesome. I hate using that word, but it is just awesome to have that and to always have access and to have people in different time zones. It makes things interesting too, at least for me, especially since I can't travel right now and I love to travel. Having people in different places opens up your eyes to different things too, and different experiences and cultures. So that's really all I have to say, except please do take a look at it now and in the next few days, because that's when we have that early bird bonus. The early bird bonus runs through Wednesday. So today's Friday. It's just 5 more days that it's available. And then it goes into that tools and resources sort of upsell pack. Because next Thursday, we're launching something else. We're launching the course on how to get interviewed on podcasts. 2 very different things. So, this is about the managing remote teams. Next Thursday is the getting interviewed on podcasts. Don't get confused. They're both important. All right. Keeping you busy, something for everyone. And that's it. You got anything else to add before I sign off?
No, I want to get over to the shop.
All right. I only went about 15 minutes over planned. Not so bad. All right, everybody. There's your URL, contentsparks.com/remote teams. We can come back on. Ooh, right in our face. Come back on just to say goodbye and have a really, really good weekend. Do something fun, relaxing, healthy, and stay safe out there. And let us know if you have any questions at all. All right. Take care now. Bye, all.
Bye.